What's going on, guys? This is Mike from Michael Anthony Photography, and I want to thank you for checking out my article in this month's Shutter magazine. This month I was writing about using a light meter to develop quick and accurate exposures when you're out in the field or on an assignment. I still use a light meter on every single shoot and every single wedding that I photograph, and I believe that it's essential to be able to develop very quick and very accurate exposures. I never want to rely on the LCD screen on the back of my camera because I found that too often it will not give me the exact information. When you're shooting weddings, and especially if you're shooting a high volume of weddings or portraits, the time that you spend in post-production can really have an impact on your business. Now, even if you outsource your retouching, you still want to be able to have very accurate exposure information, because then the color in the photograph will also be very accurate as well too. And I believe that it's really essential to be able to use all of the technology that we have available to be able to make decisions when you're on an assignment. So I use a Sekonic L758 DR light meter, and the reason I use this light meter as opposed to some of the other options that they have available is because it does a couple of things that I really like. First of all, and first and foremost, the spot meter in this is a 1 degree spot meter. This is the only light meter that they offer that has a 1 degree spot meter built in. Sekonic also makes another light meter, which we own as well, an L478 DR, which is a very good light meter, a little bit different than this one, and it has the ability to add a spot meter attachment. That light meter is very compact in size, and it's very easy to carry around on a wedding day on a belt pouch or in a pocket or wherever you may need to use it. So sometimes I use that, and if I'm somewhere where I'm carrying my bag around with me, I'll use this one, which is a little bit larger as well too. The other thing that I love about this light meter is that it'll give me a ratio of flash to ambient light, and I can make a determination of what I want my exposure to look like using data that is coming off of this device rather than just looking at the back of my camera's LCD screen. There are a lot of things that can influence the back of your camera. For instance, if you're in a very bright environment, you might not get an accurate reading by just looking at the back of the camera and making determinations, because some parts of that image are going to be very dark and some parts are going to be very bright, especially in a contrasty scene. And being able to use a light meter to develop that information and make your decisions with actual information rather than just looking at the back of that screen and kind of trying to see what looks good will always give you a better result. The other thing that I found over the years of using a light meter is that when I'm actually getting my information and developing my exposures based upon the readings that I'm getting here, I'm actually able to go out and make quicker determinations on what my exposure should be. So when I go out on an assignment, if I'm able to just go up to my client, get my exposure, and then boom, I'm shooting right away. It'll allow me to spend more time interacting with my clients and less time taking test shots and not knowing or looking like I'm not knowing what I'm doing to my clients. They like to see that you're professional, and using this tool will actually help them to realize that you're actually using good information when you're making determinations on their exposures and their photographs. One more thing, guys, that I really recommend doing is when you're actually practicing with this, let's say you're not used to using it, go out there and practice. Tape the back of your LCD screen like we did during our shoot that we used in this article. It'll give you more confidence when you're out there using the information that comes off of this light meter, and when you're out there not using a light meter at all, to be able to develop accurate exposures and feel more confident in your ability to make determinations based on the information that you're getting from here and from experience using a light meter in the past. I really recommend adding this to your camera bag, and if you guys aren't using this right now, just consider the amount of time this will save you in post-production if you are editing your own work. And if you're outsourcing your editing, think about the amount of time that will be saved in terms of getting those images back to you quicker, because your editors are not going to have to spend as much time making adjustments to them as well. In addition to that, consistency, guys. If you're using a light meter out on location, you're able to make sure that your flash and your ambient light will be consistently the same ratio, so that when you're going through a gallery, you know exactly what you're going to get, rather than just taking photos and hoping for the best. I know it may seem like not a smart business decision to buy a tool when your camera can kind of already read light and already includes a meter. But let me just explain some of the differences between a handheld incident light meter and a reflective meter, which is what our cameras have. A reflective meter will measure light that is bouncing off of a subject and then coming back through the lens, whereas an incident meter like this one will measure light that's falling onto the dome itself. This will always be more accurate, and you're able to tell what your exposure would be on in any particular area of an image as opposed to the overall area of the image like our cameras do right now with reflective metering. And even if you're using the spot meter that's built into your camera, it's still a 20-degree spot meter, 15-degree to 20-degree spot meter, which is not that accurate. You're gonna have other influences on the exposure reading that you're gonna be getting. So before I go, guys, just a couple quick tips on using your light meter. The dome right here retracts, so it goes in and it goes out. When I'm metering multiple light sources, let's say I have the sun that's reflecting off a big white building, right? And I want to measure light on one side of the subject, but not the other. I will actually pop this area down, the dome down, and I will actually point the dome toward each individual light source to get an accurate reading. And the reason I do that is because I don't want any of the other sources in the image kind of messing with my exposure. Another time that I'll do this is if I have a really, really strong light coming through, say, an underpass, or if it's coming through a window, and I don't want to, and the scene is very contrasty, and I don't want to have any other influences on my readings, I will pop that dome down. The other thing, guys, if I'm using this in bright open shade and I want to make sure that I'm getting a consistent result, let's just say that the sun has gone down behind a hill and now we're shooting in just very open shade and the light everywhere is perfectly even. Then I'll use this and I'll point it right at the camera, directly under my subject's chin, or as close to it as I can get, being careful not to block the light coming onto the dome, and then that's how I'll meter that particular situation. When I'm using flash with this, guys, I will always point the dome toward the direction of the flash. For instance, I have a light coming just to the camera left here. And what I'll do with that is I'll point the dome directly toward the light source, and then I'll get my reading. And then that way it will give me the reading on the highlight side of the image as opposed to the shadow side, and then I might blow out the highlights. Now, guys, after using this for a little bit of time, you're gonna know what your cameras, what your personal camera, what looks good on your camera settings, as opposed to what may look good on a different camera or a different lens combination. And you'll be able to make decisions based on the information that you've received over time. But I definitely recommend getting out there, setting up some shoots if you have one of these, and practicing using it to be able to develop consistency and develop your speed when you're using this device as well. It has made my photography better and more consistent, and I know it will for you as well too. Make sure you guys are taping your LCD screen and developing those skills, not relying on the back of the camera, and you're always going to get a much better result. Thank you guys again for checking out my article, and if you guys have any questions about using or purchasing a light meter, go ahead and shoot me an email at info@michaelanthonyphotography.com. I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I can, and if you guys have any questions about technique, go ahead and email me as well too. Thank you again for checking out my article, and I'll talk to you guys next month.